Imagine a place where death wasn't just a punishment, it was a performance that gripped an entire city. For over 600 years, London's Tyburn Gallows stood as a grim theater where justice wasn't merely served but staged with brutal intensity. Located near what is now Marble Arch, Tyburn wasn't just an execution site, it was a public spectacle, a chilling warning, and a stage where thousands met their agonizing ends. Unlike modern executions, death at Tyburn was rarely swift or merciful. Prisoners often strangled for minutes, their legs flailing as crowds watched in awe, horror, or morbid delight. Some executions were so horrific they became legends, etched into London's dark history. From daring thieves who defied the noose to women burned alive before roaring crowds, Tyburn's tales are soaked in blood and spectacle. Are you ready to uncover the chilling stories of London's most infamous execution site? Let's dive into the heart of Tyburn's gruesome legacy. Asterisk, if this glimpse into history's darkest corners has you hooked, hit that like button, share this story with friends, and subscribe for more gripping tales. Your support keeps these stories alive. Let's inspire each other to explore the past with passion. Asterisk. From the 12th century until 1783, Tyburn Gallows was London's execution capital, a place where criminals, rebels, and the condemned faced their fate. But Tyburn was more than a site of punishment, it was an event. Public executions were designed to deter, to strike fear into the hearts of onlookers, but over time, they became something else, entertainment. Thousands gathered, from nobles to commoners, transforming a place of death into a carnival of chaos. Vendors sold food, drinks, and souvenirs, while wealthy spectators paid for prime seats in specially built stands. The gallows themselves, known as the Triple Tree for their triangular design, could hang multiple people at once, a chilling symbol of merciless justice. Unlike modern hangings, where a trapdoor ensures a quick death, Tyburn's methods were brutal. Prisoners were dropped from a cart, their necks rarely breaking, leaving them to strangle slowly as the crowd watched. For the worst crimes, hanging was just the beginning, traitors' face being drawn and quartered, their bodies mutilated in a gruesome display, while women convicted of petty treason were burned at the stake. Tyburn's executions were a mirror of a society that craved order but reveled in violence, a paradox that drew Londoners to its blood-soaked ground. Among the countless stories that define Tyburn, none shines brighter or darker than that of Jack Sheppard, a thief so charismatic and cunning he became a legend in his own time. Born in 1702 in London's squalid slums, Sheppard trained as a carpenter but found honest work dull and unprofitable. He turned to theft, robbing homes, businesses, and even wealthy nobles with a flair that made him dangerously likable. His good looks, quick wit, and audacious crimes turned him into a folk hero, but it was his knack for escaping even the most secure prisons that made him infamous. Locked in St. Giles's Roundhouse, a small local jail, Sheppard picked the locks and climbed out a window within hours, vanishing into London's labyrinthine streets. When authorities recaptured him and sent him to New Prison in Clerkenwell, a more secure facility, he broke through the ceiling, fashioned a rope from a bedsheet, and escaped again. Even Newgate Prison, London's most formidable jail, couldn't hold him. Shackled and locked behind multiple iron doors, Sheppard filed through his chains, broke open 6 doors, climbed onto the roof, and disappeared into the night. Each escape was more daring than the last, and newspapers reported his exploits with a mix of outrage and admiration. To the public, he was a hero, a symbol of defiance against a harsh system. Wealthy Londoners secretly cheered him on, while the authorities grew furious at their inability to contain him. By 1724, Sheppard's fame had reached a fever pitch, but his luck was running out. Captured again in November of that year, the authorities ensured there would be no more escapes. On November 16, 1724, Jack Sheppard was led to Tyburn Gallows, an event that drew a staggering crowd of over 200,000, nearly a third of London's population. Nobles, merchants, and commoners packed the streets, some climbing rooftops for a better view. Many hoped for one last trick, one final escape from the legendary thief. Sheppard, true to form, showed no fear. He joked with the executioner, waved to the crowd, and even drank several pints of beer on his way to the gallows, as if death were just another adventure. When the noose was placed around his neck and the cart pulled away, the crowd fell silent. Unlike modern executions, there was no trapdoor to ensure a quick death. Sheppard strangled slowly, his body twitching and kicking for several minutes. Some say his friends tried to cut him down to revive him, but it was too late. At just 22 years old, Jack Sheppard was dead, but his legend was far from over. Plays were written about him, songs echoed through London streets, and his story inspired novels like The Adventures of Roderick Random and Moll Flanders. Even centuries later, Sheppard remains one of London's most famous criminals, a man who defied the system and became immortal. Jack Sheppard's daring tale is one for the ages. Does it inspire you? Like and share this story to keep his legend alive, and subscribe for more incredible historical journeys. If Sheppard's story is one of rebellion and charisma, the tale of Catherine Hayes is a descent into horror that shocked even Tyburn's hardened crowds. In 1726, Hayes was convicted of a crime so heinous that hanging was deemed too lenient. She was sentenced to be burned alive. Catherine was married to John Hayes, a carpenter whose controlling and abusive nature made their marriage unbearable. Along with two lovers, she plotted to end his life. One night, after getting John drunk, the trio attacked him in his sleep, bashing his head with an axe and severing it to conceal his identity. They dumped his headless body in the River Thames and tossed his head elsewhere, hoping to evade detection. But London was a city of sharp eyes, and the head was soon discovered. Witnesses linked it back to Catherine, and when authorities uncovered her role in the murder, they declared her guilty of petty treason, a crime considered worse than murder, as it was seen as a betrayal of both her husband and society itself. At the time, women convicted of petty treason faced a fate far worse than hanging, burning at the stake. On May 9, 1726, Catherine was led to Tyburn, where a massive crowd gathered to witness her punishment. Tied to a wooden stake and chained to prevent escape, she faced a pile of firewood at her feet, waiting to be ignited. In a grim act of mercy, the executioner wrapped a rope around her neck to strangle her before the flames could consume her, a common practice to spare the condemned the agony of burning alive. But something went terribly wrong. The rope snapped before Catherine could be strangled, and the fire was already burning. She awoke, screaming, as the flames engulfed her body. The crowd, accustomed to Tyburn's brutality, watched in horror as she thrashed, her cries echoing across the execution ground. After several agonizing minutes, she succumbed to the heat and smoke, her charred remains left to burn until only ashes remained. Catherine's execution was so horrific that it sparked outrage, even among those used to Tyburn's violence. Her death led to a change in British law, ensuring that women sentenced to burning would always be strangled first to prevent such suffering. Catherine Hayes' story remains one of Tyburn's darkest chapters, a testament to the cruelty of an era that saw justice as a spectacle. Catherine's chilling fate is a stark reminder of Tyburn's brutality. Share the story with others who love history's darkest tales. Like and subscribe to join our journey through the past. Tyburn's executions were more than punishments. They were performances that reflected the contradictions of London society. The gallows drew crowds of thousands, turning death into a public event. Vendors hawked pies, ale, and pamphlets recounting the condemned's crimes, while nobles paid for the best seats to watch the spectacle unfold. The triple-tree gallows, with their ability to hang multiple people at once, became a symbol of both fear and fascination. Executions were often chaotic, with crowds cheering popular criminals or jeering despised ones. Some prisoners seized their final moments to deliver fiery speeches, curse the authorities, or even incite riots, turning the gallows into a stage for defiance. The brutality of Tyburn's methods added to its infamy. Hanging was rarely quick, with prisoners strangling for minutes as the crowd watched. For crimes like treason, the punishment was even worse, drawing and quartering, where the condemned were disemboweled and dismembered while still alive. Women like Catherine Hayes faced burning, a fate so gruesome it shocked even the most hardened spectators. Yet, Tyburn's spectacles weren't just about punishment. They revealed a society grappling with crime, power, and morality. The gallows became a mirror for London's complexities, a city that demanded order but thrived on chaos, that sought justice but turned death into entertainment. Over time, however, attitudes began to shift. By the late 18th century, public executions were seen less as a deterrent and more as a dangerous spectacle. Critics argued that Tyburn glorified criminals, turning figures like Jack Sheppard into heroes. The massive crowds, often numbering in the tens of thousands, were difficult to control, and riots were common. In 1783, the government shut down Tyburn, moving executions inside Newgate Prison to avoid public chaos. By the mid-19th century, practices like drawing and quartering were abolished, and in 1868, public executions in Britain were banned entirely. Tyburn's gallows were gone, but their legacy endured. Today, a simple plaque near Marble Arch marks the site where London's darkest stories unfolded, a quiet nod to a place that once pulsed with the energy of life and death. Tyburn's legacy is a window into a brutal past. Share this story to spark conversations about history. Like and subscribe to keep exploring with us. The stories of Jack Sheppard, Catherine Hayes, and countless others ensure that Tyburn remains etched in London's memory. These tales are more than grim anecdotes. They're a tapestry of rebellion, cruelty, and spectacle that shaped the city's identity. Sheppard's daring escapes and Hayes' tragic end remind us of a time when justice was as much about fear as it was about punishment. By exploring Tyburn's history, we connect with the past, learning from its lessons and marveling at its complexities. These stories challenge us to reflect on human nature, on the balance between order and chaos, and on the enduring power of defiance in the face of death. Let's keep these tales alive, share them, discuss them, and let them inspire us to dig deeper into history's shadows. If Tyburn's gripping history has captivated you, don't stop here. Like, share, and subscribe to fuel your passion for the past. Let's keep uncovering the stories that shaped our world. Together, we can make history come alive.